Looks like it's working. Good morning. Elle Ingalls here at pressure-free.com. I'm out on my deck, and I usually come out here in the morning, listen to the sounds of the forest. Though sometimes, if the air is just right, I can hear a highway about 4 or 5 miles away from here. But a lot of times it's just very, very quiet, except for bird sounds. The only bird sounds I'm really hearing right now is a mystery bird. I've got to figure out what that is. Blue jays, crows, and the occasional hawk in my neighborhood. Also some owls in the evening. And that's because the birds are molting. It's molting season for most birds, including the blue jays, but they will still squawk, especially the yearlings or the seasonal, the immature birds right now. They're kind of learning how to talk. But that got me thinking about seasonal stressors. And um, I typically, with my clients, I do a 3-month container to get them started with pressure free. Sometimes people decide to go longer with me. And one of the things that I've noticed is that we can be doing really great, but then we'll hit a season and the season could be like actual, like fall, winter, spring, summer, like the things that are happening seasonally, or it's a season of our life where suddenly a lot of stressors pile on. And it's like we need a reset. It's happened to me over the past 16 years with pressure free. The tools that might have worked for me in the past when I hit a particular season, I need to bring up some different tools. One of the tools I want to share this morning is what I call the spirit of contribution. I created this tool reading a book by Wallace Wattles called The Science of Being Rich. And it is part of a trilogy of his called The Science of Being Well. No, The Science of Success. So it's a science of success, science of being well, science of being rich. And in The Science of Being Rich, there was just a little bit about how if you are contributing versus competing, you will rise faster. And this book was feels like this book was written for someone when you think about the time period of the that he was writing. I think it was 1911 it was published. You could actually change your socioeconomic status, which for millennia you really couldn't. Most people couldn't. Wherever you started was where you ended. So if you were born into poverty, you finished in poverty. But with the age, especially the Industrial Revolution, you could actually, through your industriousness, change your life. And so I think that's a piece of why he wrote this book. So what is the spirit of contribution? I look at it like this. Competition, if you enter into the spirit of competition and if you have any fear that you won't do well or underperform or could lose, like if you're up for a promotion with other people in your company, if you're applying for a program, for an educational program or any kind of program, and there's competition for it. If you're taking tests, then this thought that you might not do as well as you could, that you're competing against other people, that can cause you to trigger the stress response, and then it will result in underperformance because this whole apparatus is going to get a burst of adrenaline, but that's short-lived. And now your energy is going to be different and your ability to think is going to be different. And so if we can prevent the stress response, you'll perform at a much higher level. All of this will start to work for you. So I view competition as a split hand, where if you feel like you are going to lose, that's then you that's the state we're in. If you feel like you're going to win or you're going to do really well, then it just opens up, like everything opens up. Your blood vessels actually open up when you perceive that you're going to do well in a situation. So the other thing that happens in spirit of competition is that we hold back a little bit. Have you noticed this? We hold back in working on projects, in athletic competitions. We'll hold back a little bit and we won't give our all. We don't go all the way, all in. And one of the reasons for that is if we've triggered the stress response, our brain has to justify and rationalize everything going on. So you'll finish a race and you'll tell your coach, I could have run faster, or I could have swum faster, like whatever it is that you're doing. If you get to the end of a big project, you'll think to yourself, wow, I really could have done better there. I could have assessed something more fully or taken this just another step farther. So looking at all that, I view the spirit of competition as something that really causes us to not be our best selves and not perform at our best. And the antidote to it is what I call the spirit of contribution. And contribution is like an open hand where your gifts and talents are flowing freely with no fear of loss. So with my violin students, if they've started to feel some competition about like other people in my studio or they're performing in a master class and they're feeling judged or that they're not going to do as well as someone else, I would point out to them this spirit of contribution where they get to contribute their unique gifts and talents, which are very different than this person over here. Perhaps this person has a really beautiful legato, but their staccato's a little off, or like there's so many variables in playing, and ultimately it's this gift that we're pouring out. It's a gift for everything you pour out in your profession. Like, what is that when we can tap into this idea of contributing? So this idea of habit stacking and contributing. This is something that I do when I go through a doorway. So when I go through a doorway, I'll ask myself the question, how can I contribute? And by asking that question, how can I contribute? The amazing answers will come forward, but it's less about the answers as the spirit in which I enter the room. That's why I call this the spirit of contribution. So, for example, sometimes I would come home from my work, from whatever I was doing, and I'd enter the house and I'd be like in a complaining mode. And a complaining mode does not really serve my family very well, doesn't serve my spouse very well. So if I go through the doorway, I'll ask myself, okay, how can I contribute here? I've told this story a few times. I don't know if I've told it on here. I'm going to go ahead and tell it because it's a clear difference between me pre-pressure free and me post-pressure free. So pre-pressure free, this would have been May of 2010. I had a symphony rehearsal and I was like really practicing these pressure-free tools to not overreact in situations, to not get nervous, to prevent all of that and at a really high level, annoyance being my big A, like preventing the annoyances. And so I was headed, actually, first of all, I cooked dinner and I held it off because it was baseball season. Guys were coming home later from baseball. So I made dinner and then I said, I got to get right off to rehearsal. So you guys have the cleanup tonight. And they're like, yeah, we got it. So I went off to rehearsal and really using my tools. And I performed really, really well that night, like so in the zone. And I wasn't letting annoyances like around me bother me at all. I was really achieving, let's put it that way, and feeling great about it. So get done rehearsal, packing up, chatting with friends, and by the time I get home, it's about 10:30, and I'm thinking, oh, I've got a couple emails to send out to some new clients, and I'm just going to sit at the family computer because I was actually using the family computer to start my business. And as I drove up to my house, every light was blazing. I had thought I was coming home to a dark house where I could use the computer. Everyone's asleep. It's a school night. It's 10:30 at night. But no, I walk in and the Stanley Cup game is blaring on the TV. My older boys have their laptops up there. They're doing their homework while they're watching the Stanley Cup. My youngest is on the computer I want. He's 10. He's playing some video game. And then I walk into the kitchen and the dishes aren't done. So I threw on my apron and I immediately started to work on the dishes. My husband said, "Hun, we've got this. We've got this." And I totally lost it, went so under the line, released so much adrenaline. And I just went, obviously not. And then I go, and William isn't even in bed. He doesn't even have a shower yet. He's 10. It's 10:30 at night. Like I just went ballistic. So, by the way, then it was chaos. My elder son came in and said, "You just made William cry, Mom." And like it was just chaos. And it took forever to get everybody to bed. In the morning, everybody was grumpy. And so fast forward about a few months later, same scenario. I held dinner off. They're going to take care of the cleanup. I go off to rehearsal. That night when I came home and the dishes still weren't done, I just took a shower, went upstairs, read a little bit, and fell asleep. I have no idea when they all went to bed. But when I woke up in the morning, the kitchen was completely clean and sparkling. Dining room table was ready for breakfast because we all ate around our dining room table. Um, and everything was peaceful. Everyone woke up on time. There was no craziness. And that was a big lesson for me to watch the difference between those two events. And I thought, wow, okay. The second time, when I walked through my door to my house, I asked myself, how can I contribute? And the answer I got was not to throw on my apron and cause a scene and get everybody riled up. The answer was to just take care of myself and go to bed because I was tired. My younger two children require far less sleep than I do. And my eldest, I think he was already in bed. The younger two weren't. But who am I to judge what they need? Like if I saw that they were tired in the morning and they weren't functioning well, that would be different. But in the morning, they're chipper and happy and off to school, doing great. So I learned several lessons in all of that. But one was that I don't need to meddle. I don't need to meddle in all of this. Um, I can trust and encourage them to be independent, to take care of things. They do a beautiful job when they clean up. They do, it's just like, who am I to interfere with all that? And the other thing is to ask, how can I contribute? And you'll get some interesting answers. Like that night when I was like, best way I can contribute is just to go to bed. So I hope this is helpful. This idea of spirit of contribution. I think it's a really big one when we have seasonal change, when we have like the birds are molting right now. Do you have molting seasons? You can really beat yourself up. And when you feel that kind of energy, it's like, no, how can I contribute? How can I contribute to myself, to my soul? How can I contribute to others around me? How can I be in a state that that works with what is happening in this season rather than just constantly hitting the wall and butting heads and creating situations that don't get us to solution. So I've found this empowering question, how can I contribute, to be one of the greatest tools to help me flip into a mode that is so much more helpful for myself and for everyone else. I wish you a fabulous pressure-free day. Bye.